Welcome to our first video on breathing. In this 8-minute video, I'm going to take you through the essentials of breathing, why it's important, and how it relates to your core. So, our breathing reflects every emotion, physical effort, and every physical disturbance that occurs. Feldenkrais was an amazing movement practitioner, and this quote perfectly reflects what we're going to talk about today. So, some facts about breathing. The average human being breathes between 12 to 16 times per day, and this was actually adjusted up from years ago when it was like 8 to 10, I believe. The bottom line is the more we stress breathe, the more shallow breaths we take, the less oxygen we're getting in, and the less oxygen we get in, the more issues we're going to have with our body, period. So when we breathe in, when we take air into our lungs, we're inhaling oxygen. When we exhale, we're expelling the waste product CO2. So what we want to happen is we want to be able to breathe in, take very long breaths and even longer exhales. And as you'll see, what tends to happen is our body becomes more inefficient at expelling waste, and over time things build up. We start to get problems with our breath. We start to get issues that we're going to talk about today. So with optimal breathing and really developing an optimal core, we want a head that is aligned with a thorax or a rib cage, and then which is also aligned with a pelvis. All right, that allows air to go in and out, okay, as efficiently as possible because it's like a pump. The diaphragm can just go straight up and down. This is what we think about when we think of core stability. So in this scenario, it's very easy for us to allow our ribs to move up and out and then down and in. And that's what happens every time we take a breath in, our ribs come up and out. Every time we exhale, our ribs come down and in. But when we get to our second scenario, where we have kind of an arched back or a thorax that's out in front of a pelvis that's kind of tipped back, then it's a little bit harder. In this scenario, this is kind of what happens every time we take a breath in. The rib cage goes up and out, meaning the rib cage lifts and the ribs actually expand out, kind of like a balloon. The problem is when we exhale, they should go in and the ribs should drop down to meet the diaphragm to allow it to come into its resting position. But when that doesn't happen very well, we get into this scenario of chest breathing where we can't fully get air out and we can't pressurize our core. So when we look at kind of this chest breathing posture, we see a back that is excessively arched. We see a pelvis and a rib cage that are excessively pushed out in front of the body. What we also see here is a pooch belly. Okay. Importantly here, if you look at the photo on the right, you can also see internal organs that are kind of pushed up against the gut there. That really is the reason that we see the pooch bellies because those are organs that are being pushed up against the stomach due to a lack of visceral fat. So in a lot of cases, it's not the fact that you have a large, swath of fat around your midsection. It's because we have, livers and, kidneys and things of this nature pushed up against the stomach that are literally creating the pooch belly because, we don't have room to push them back. So some factors that we want to think about with healthy breathing. Number one, slow breathing. All right. My goal for you in whether we're doing core training or just in life is to be able to take about a 3 to 4 second inhale and about a 6 to 2 second exhale to pause. So I breathe in, I exhale, and then I pause. As opposed to, and I don't know if you can hear it very well in this recording, but really fast breathing, which causes, again, a lack of motion of our diaphragm. It starts to create issues with our health, and it doesn't allow this reciprocation between ribs coming up and out, ribs going down and in to occur. Now, with nose breathing is what is our goal. Nose breathing allows us the nose acts by different mechanisms to filter air. So if we get into a scenario where we are mouth breathing, and I'm sure we've all done that when, we're sick or we can't breathe through our nose, um, our throat dries out, we can't fully drop our ribs down, and we can't take as long a breath in or out. Okay, so addressing that factor is going to be a big deal. So think deep breath in through the nose and then either out through the nose, or if we're doing our core training, out through the mouth. The other thing is 360 degrees of breathing versus chest breathing. So if we look at our belly, or if we look at our diaphragm and our core as a balloon, we have the front, we have the sides, and we have the back, as well as the chest. when I breathe in, I want to get all of those areas full, not just the belly, not just the chest, not just the sides. I want to get everything full of air, so I can create pressure like a balloon. Whereas, like if one side doesn't fill up, let's say I'm belly breathing, even I'm not expanding into my chest, I'm just breathing narrow, like they might teach you in yoga. And not all yoga does this. This is just a technique to allow for relaxation. Then I'm not fully pressurizing and I'm not fully creating pressure. Whereas if I put my hands on the side of my ribs, and as well as breathing into my belly, I attempt to fill my ribs with air as well as fill my chest to some degree with air. We produce more pressure there. Therefore, we're acting the diaphragm and the muscles and our deeper core muscles are acting as a more efficient pump. So we can get a little bit more bang for our buck there and really, develop healthier breathing strategies. So if we look at our breathing muscles, we have what we call our principal breathing muscles and our accessory breathing muscles. And I don't need to get into a lot of detailed science on this, but the reason this is important is because when we don't breathe well through our primary muscles, such as our diaphragm, our ribs, we start to get accessory breathing through the muscles of our upper extremity, especially in chest breathing. So we have the sternocleidomastoid, which is attached to the neck. We have the scalenes, which is also the front of the neck, and then we also have what is called the pec minor, which is kind of the front of the shoulder. And people who have breathing issues, all of these muscles hurt because often or become tired. If I ask you, where do you carry your tension, and you say, oh yeah, all in my upper body, that's a tell for the fact that you're a chest breather, because all of those muscles are going to be used more than is necessary. So rather than just stretching those things out or foam rolling them, our goal then is to reestablish normal breathing so we take some pressure off those areas. So when we just take a quiet breath in, the motion is our diaphragm, when we inhale, our ribs come up and out, and our diaphragm descends towards our pelvic floor, while our pelvic floor also descends to create pressure. Whereas when we exhale, our diaphragm comes up to meet our rib cage, as well as our pelvic floor coming back up in this general direction as well. This is what would be considered a resting position of the diaphragm. When that doesn't happen, when we're not able to get a full exhale, then the diaphragm never really comes at rest, and we start to get issues with pain. The diaphragm is connected to the lumbar spine, so the diaphragm can act upon the lumbar spine. We start to get muscles, we could say we get a tight psoas. You guys have probably heard that before. And a lot of this, not all of this, but a lot of this is due to the fact that, we can't fully get air out. So by starting there, even if there are other issues at play, that's going to help to set the stage for better recovery, as well as from a core training perspective, fully exhaling, getting all the air out, using the muscles of our deep core to, tighten our abs around our waist like a weight belt. And that's one of the things we'll talk about in later presentations. But being able to get the full breath out is super important. Now, as it relates to stress, one of the other things to touch upon is the fact that when we take a deep breath in, we get an upregulation of what we call the sympathetic nervous system, which is higher breathing rate, heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up. Whereas when we exhale, our breathing rate naturally goes down, our heart rate goes down, our blood pressure goes down. So imagine if we can't fully get air out, what happens? All right, we stay to some degree in what we call sympathetic dominance, where we can't fully come out of, we're kind of in our fight or flight state where we can't fully rest. So this interplay between getting air in and getting air out is absolutely key to being able to develop tension, but then release that tension and relax. And if you find that you're like high strung, or you have problems, you find that you have problems relaxing or sleeping or whatever, you really need to take a look at this. This is why people talk about breathing or meditation as a strategy to relax and to sleep better, because it helps to upregulate the sympathetic side of exhalation, the sympathetic side of our nervous system. So by putting your feet up and kind of doing some of the things we're about to talk about, you can really start to get into a more parasympathetic state. So what are some things that keep us from breathing? Okay, we have any kind of stress. emotional stress, excessive exercise, posture, the way we sit or stand, a poor sleep, a failure to cool down. Really, any of these things could be factors. Your goal is to look at them and kind of see what applies to you. So what do we do instead then? All right, we reestablish deep breathing throughout the day, both in the morning and at night. For me, I'm always looking to use breathing to kind of reestablish better positions as I'm going throughout my day. And when I do get into kind of a stress breathing pattern, using forced breathing to restore a better position. So as we'll talk about in a second, one of the best things that you can do for yourself is blowing up a balloon. Okay, because what that does is that uses our transverse abdominis as well as our internal obliques, our deep core muscles, to help to create a corset around our midsection, actually force air out, get our ribs down, and kind of kickstart this breathing process. So our goal then would be to do this throughout the day if as necessary when we do find ourselves in these states. So let's say I do start to have back pain, or I do start to just hyperventilate generally. I get stressed out. Literally, blowing up a balloon is something that they do for, for kids with ADHD or kindergartners throughout the day. My mom's a kindergarten teacher, and she's employed the strategy. So this is very useful. So option one, and this is what I would do in the morning, okay, or at night. Okay, if you are going to meditate, I would recommend doing it in this way. And you don't have to have your feet on a wall. They could be up on a chair, they could be up on a bed. But the bottom line is putting your feet up helps to bring the spine back into a more flexed or neutral position, and helps to kind of reset it, after we've been standing all day and kind of arching our back. So the goal here then would be to put our hands on our ribs, breathe in, kind of fill our ribs with air, and just practice this slow breathing. Okay, and again, I'd be doing this for 2 to 3 minutes before bed, as well as 2 to 3 minutes as you wake up, just to kind of put things in a good place and kind of reset. And you could also stay in this position and use forced breathing, which is one of the things that I'll recommend in a later presentation. But just think about putting your feet up, taking a deep breath in through your nose, and then just doing a forced exhale through your mouth while pressing your back into the ground. That's going to use your abs to put your back in a better position, and help to kind of start your day in a good way. Now, let's say you've been sitting all day, okay, and you start to notice this. You're in the car driving, or you just can't get up through your desk. All right, what's thing two that we can do? Literally, and this can be done in any position. Blow up a balloon. Okay, so this exercise is called seated balloon breathing, where I'm sitting down, I'm reaching my arms forward, I'm breathing, I'm taking deep breaths in through my nose, I'm exhaling, and I'm reaching. Okay, and as I reach, I'm trying to get air into my back, and I'm rounding out. Once again, this is helping to kind of restore a good position for our back, and it's getting air into the right places to reestablish good breathing. So then what is our homework for all of this? All right, number one, I would just say breathe daily. Okay, you already are breathing, but make a make an effort to actually go through some sort of a breathing routine. Okay, this is like the first thing I'm giving my clients, and this is the first thing that people do in our Core Restore program, is use exercises to kind of reset their posture and kind of reestablish good breathing throughout the day. And they say like abs are getting abs and getting a flat stomach and all of that is something that we do daily, all day. So it's not a series of one or two exercises, it's awareness as well. And so starting your day this way is going to build awareness, but it's also going to put you in a better position. The other thing to do would be to reposition throughout the day. So when you do get into bad positions, use the balloon breathing exercise that I showed you, to just put your back or put your core into a better position so you stay in alignment. Just doing that is going to help immensely as far as helping you to feel better, but it's also going to help you to get in a good position for core training, as we'll go through in later modules. And then finally, just focusing on breathing forms. So as you are sitting down throughout the day, let's say you do start to, hyperventilate or you get stressed out, take 1 minute and just work on this. Just think about breathing in for 3 to 4 seconds and exhaling for 6 to 7 seconds. In meditation, the most basic form of meditation is just following the breath. And this has huge benefits as far as stress relief goes, but also in terms of just normalizing, our breathing. So I hope this presentation has been helpful to you, and I look forward to seeing you soon.